My name is Nerma Frieden. I'm Food for Life instructor for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about more about that organization. But Elizabeth contacted me about 2 months ago about doing veggie presentation about benefits of vegetables. And I told her I can do it, but it really it's hard to do presentation about vegetables and leave out fruits and leave out legumes and grains because all of those things are good for you. So today we agreed to do a presentation about plant-based diet with a focus on vegetables. And then I'm going to do a little food demo where we'll try some vegetables and eat some colorful foods. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine was founded more than 30 years by Dr. Neil Barnard. It focuses on addressing of root cause of disease. A lot of times, major killers in the United States, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, are lifestyle-caused diseases, yet they are managed by pharmaceuticals. A lot of times, if you address the root cause of the problem goes away. Now imagine if you're walking down in your living room and you hit your shin on a coffee table, what's going to happen? It's going to be painful. You're going to get some marks there. But if you stay away from coffee table and don't keep hitting yourself on the shin, it will eventually heal. Now imagine every day you keep hitting yourself on the shin. And you go to doctor, and doctor says, I've gone to medical school for this. I know exactly what can I do. Pulls out prescription and gives you a pain medicine. Where just if you address the root cause of the problem goes away. It's the same with heart disease, diabetes, stroke. If you just eat the natural foods that are good for us, the problem will go away. So that is what this is, trying to help people eat healthier and regain their health through natural ways. Now, I want to say I'm not a medical doctor, and this is not meant to replace medical advice. Any changes that you make for your diet, make sure that you consult with your doctor, especially if you are using medications, because this diet is so powerful that your medications have to be scaled down, and sometimes people completely go off their meds. So that's important to keep your doctor informed. As I said, many chronic diseases. There's a diabetes class. I teach classes where I help people learn about how to eat healthy, but also we cook foods so they can try this food, see that this is a tasty way to regain your health and that you're really not, it's not suffering. Hopefully you will all agree. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I wasn't eating like this or teaching these classes my whole life. First time I learned about the idea that you can regain health through plant-based diet when I watched Forks Over Knives movie documentary. Has anyone here seen this movie? I was 42 years old, and this was the first time that I even heard this idea. I grew up in very meat-centric culture, and for me, eating animal products meant strength, and it feeds our strong bodies. I started researching more, and the more I researched, the more I found that truly the research bears out. People thrive on this type of diet. Once you go to fruits, vegetables, grain, and legumes, remove animal products from your diet, sometimes miracles happen. However, I was pretty healthy at this time, and I watched this movie, and I do like taste of meat. So I kind of, I changed a little bit, but I kept eating meat because I like it. It tastes good. I went to ethical eating presentation at the UU Church here in Peoria, and there I learned about animal agriculture and about standard practices, what we do to animals that we eat, stuff that is worse than horror movies that you watch. And this is where I actually decided this is it, I'm not going to eat animals anymore. So I want to tell you, I started eating this way for animals. But what happened, it did benefit my health, and I became very passionate about, teaching these classes. So Next thing was getting family on board. I have 3 young girls and a husband, and really it wasn't that hard to convince them to go this way. Kids love animals, so we said, okay, we are not eating animals anymore. However, I was still very worried that my girls wouldn't grow healthy, that they would be breaking bones because they're not getting enough calcium. So I went to their physician and I told them, this is what I'm doing. I mean, on paper, everything looks good, but I was nervous. So I have weighed them, measured their height, and kept track for about 2-3 years. We checked their hemoglobin every 6 months just because I was nervous. But they are thriving. I have 3 girls, and they are playing sports. They are not breaking bones. They are healthy. One of them is my niece, but all 4 girls have been vegan for about 5 years. And they are healthy kids. If anything, we don't get as sick as we used to. A lot of times we will have bugs in school. They seem just a little bit more resistant. I managed to even convince my mom and dad to adopt this way of eating because my dad had high cholesterol, my mom struggled with arthritis, and this really helped a lot. And now you see where I get my height. That's my dad. He became vegan at age 82, and he used to be executive in the biggest meat company in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this is 3 of us on a vegan cruise. That was really, I mean, we went all the way. As I said, one thing that I want to mention, in the beginning for me it was hard to even imagine what will I eat now that there's no meat on my plate. Because usually you say, okay, we will have beef, and then you put some starch and some vegetables, or chicken, or what are we having tonight? And coming from a culture that's also very meat-centric, it was hard for me to even imagine meals. So I ordered some new cookbooks. Internet is a great place to find some new recipes, and just kind of started switching this. I gave myself, I knew I couldn't do it overnight, but gave myself 3 months and said, in 3 months I'm going to figure out how to feed my family this way. I would say what we eat today is much more exciting than what we used to eat. We eat a lot of ethnic meals. I cook with spices that I haven't cooked before, and ingredients. There's Indian, Mexican, Thai. There's a learning curve to it. You just have to change your repertoire. As I said, I was pretty healthy, but I had migraines, and this doesn't happen to everyone, but I'm guessing that my migraines might have been caused by dairy. It's not same for everyone. Before I went vegan, I would spend a couple days in bed just because I couldn't function. That just disappeared. My husband had high cholesterol and was on statins. His cholesterol improved. Again, we were fairly young, early 40s, so didn't have many health problems. And I became so passionate about this that I went to Washington, D.C. and got certification from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine to teach these classes and tell people about benefits of plant-based diet. And I have to say that I used to be an engineer, and I worked for General Motors and Caterpillar, but I've never enjoyed my job as much as I enjoy what I do now, because this gives me a great satisfaction and joy when I see people regain their health and really change quality of their life. So these are new food groups. They're vegetables, but you have foods, grains, and legumes. Now, fruits and vegetables you're familiar with. Legumes, that's just your beans, peas, split peas, and chickpeas. And then grains, there's many. It's wheat, rice, corn, quinoa. And one thing that you notice, there's no animal products in this plate. Now, before we go any further, I would like to define a couple terms. Vegetarian means no animal flesh. You're actually not eating animals. Vegan is no animal products whatsoever, so no milk or eggs. But whole food plant-based is what I teach in these classes, and it means no animal products, but also no processed foods. white flour, sugar, or oil. So when we cook without oil, for example. This is a good illustration what it means to be vegan. You can be vegan and eat French fries and Pop-Tarts and Oreo cookies, who happen to be vegan. But is that really the best diet for you? That's good. And I have to admit, I'm not perfect. I went vegan for animals. So I'm about, depending on a day, depending on a week, I'm 80 to 90% whole food plant-based, about 10% vegan, because I have 3 young girls in my house, and temptation is always there. They do want some vegan ice cream, and I'm not going to deny them that. So it's hard for me to resist. That is, temptation is everywhere. The best way to succeed is really, if you can, remove foods from your house that will trigger you up or they're not healthy. And I'm just not in a situation to do that. So whole food plant-based diet. What happens when you go on whole food plant-based diet? For example, your cancer risk really goes down. Vegans have about 40% of everyone else's cancer risk. And this is talking about vegans that occasionally have French fries and Oreo cookies. You don't have to be perfect. But it is that you are eating many more fruits and vegetables because you have taken some things from your diet. And when you look at all those different colors in fruits and vegetables, those are phytochemicals, those are antioxidants that help the plants fight the sun damage. But when you eat them, they also help fight the damage inside you. So you have a lot of, orange color, that's your beta carotenes, lycopene in tomatoes, folate in dark green leafy vegetables that are good for you. So when you eat food that looks like this is a medicine. This is a cancer-fighting food. So next thing that happens is you have more energy. And the reason is you are eating less processed food and more fiber, so your sugar doesn't spike as much. It's more steady. I have definitely noticed this. Your cholesterol goes down. Now, plants produce no cholesterol. So when you take animal products out, your cholesterol intake goes down to 0. You are still taking some saturated fat that can cause you to your body produces cholesterol that it needs. But it's amazing how low these numbers, like I've measured my cholesterol at 112, and that's my total cholesterol, and I'm not perfect because I'm not eating any cholesterol. Your arteries open up. In 1990, in June of 1990, Dr. Dean Ornish has done a study where he has shown that in just a few months of eating a whole food plant-based diet, the arteries literally open up. Many doctors have repeated this study. There's a famous doctor at the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Esselstyn. He runs the clinic that takes people and helps them reverse heart disease. People who are on verge of getting major heart surgeries were able to reverse heart disease. And heart disease is something that's non-existent in cultures that don't eat a diet rich with animal products. So it is definitely something that just because somebody in your family has a heart disease doesn't mean that necessarily you will have a heart disease. Something else that families have in common is their diet, cuisine, what we cook and what we eat together. And Dr. Neil Barnard often says that genetics loads the gun, but diet pulls the trigger. You might be more, you will find those people that eat all kinds of bad foods but are still healthy and live in long age. But the chances are, even if you have that gene, you don't have to get heart disease. You can definitely avoid it. Your blood pressure goes down. your blood sugar goes down. Actually, I've had in my classes people go off their diabetes medication. Depends how long you have had type 2 diabetes. This happens only for type 2. Type 1 is a little bit different and it's not affected by diet. But the studies have been done where they have taken the best diet by American Dietetic Association that's recommended to diabetics and put it against whole food plant-based diet, and it doesn't even come close when it in regards to reducing your A1C markers. A1C markers fall in just a few weeks, and this is where I say if you're taking diabetes medication, just in a few weeks of eating this diet, you might notice that you don't have to take it as much as you did before. Your weight goes down. So here's the simple illustration that shows why your weight goes down. It's a simple mathematics. You consume more volume for the same amount of calories. You get filled up more easily. So this is how 400 calories of oil look in your stomach, 400 calories of beef, and 400 calories of vegetables. It will fill you up more. There is more fiber in vegetables and fruits. There is more water, and that produces satiety. You don't have to count calories. You don't have to measure portions. Actually, I tell people, some people will say when they switch to this diet, I feel hungry. The solution is eat more. That's right. Just eat more. Don't be afraid of eating huge portions of food. If you're eating salad, it will take much more bigger portion of the salad for the same amount of calories. So, for example, vegetables, here are the calories per pound. I don't know if you can see that. Vegetables are about 100 calories per pound. Fruit, 300 calories. Whole grains, 500. And beans, 600 calories. And then, I think this is probably not quite right. Animal products, it's a large range because bacon is not same as the lean chicken breast, but it is higher than that. I want to point out that oil is 4,000 calories per pound. And people like to put olive oil on their salads, but if you, for example, eat 1 pound of broccoli, that is 100 calories. 1 tablespoon of olive oil that you put on your broccoli adds 120 calories, just 1 tablespoon. There's nothing in oil that we need. There's already fats in fruits, vegetables, grain, and legumes. What we do is we take olives, which are perfectly fine, but we take all the fiber, all the minerals, all the good stuff, and just save the fat. And we don't need it. Another thing, nuts and seeds. If you think about that power plate, you didn't see nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds are more as a condiment. We do eat them, but they are almost 3,000 calories per pound. So Dr. Neil Barnard says about what fits in the palm of your hand that you can close. That's how much nuts and seeds you should eat per day. And I put them on my salads, and they have some good fats in them. So if you look above 600 calories line, that's our power plate. You don't have to measure your portions. You can eat as much as you want. Actually, if you're hungry, eat more. And you will lose weight if you have weight to lose. So to illustrate that, this is about 200 calories of in chicken nuggets or oatmeal stew. Not oatmeal, sorry, lentil stew. That's not oatmeal. Which one will fill you up more? Hot dog or 1 pound of carrots? 2 fig Newtons or cantaloupe and a couple more slices. This is my downfall. I don't allow fig Newtons in my house. They're vegan, and if I have them in the house, I don't eat 2. I will eat a dozen. And it's our nature. We seek that high-calorie food. I mean, that's what we have evolved. That's how we have survived, searching for the highest calorie food at times of scarcity. The problem is we don't live in scarcity anymore. 5 potatoes or 1 cup of cashews, which will fill you up more, same number of calories. And here's the time that I want to speak about potatoes. Don't be afraid of potatoes. They are wonderful. A lot of starchy vegetables maybe don't have as much antioxidant power as those colorful other vegetables. But you need potatoes to fill you up and to keep you satiated. Same with legumes and grains. But just keep them whole. Potato is not the problem. What's the problem when we add a bunch of butter and sour cream and bacon chips? You know, that is when you... some of the longest living cultures in the world eat potatoes. In Okinawa, they are longest living people in the world. About 70% of their calories come from sweet potato called imo. Even their greeting is, have you had your imo today? So I just want to say this is complex carbs and there's no reason. If people tell me they're hungry, I say eat more potatoes, eat more beans or grains, and that will help you. There's a guy online from Australia that has lost massive amounts of weight in 1 year just eating potatoes. That's what he has done. I think like 300 pounds just eating potatoes. So concerns. I don't want to live a life where I cannot enjoy food. I completely relate. I'm foodie. But I don't feel that I have really lost that side of my life. I really enjoy food. These days, one of my favorite things is going to a restaurant or a vegan restaurant and just ordering something that they have unique. I have one of your handouts. It's easier and easier to find foods and options everywhere, even in Peoria. Pretty much every restaurant has some options. And these days, I would say everything that you eat, I eat just a little bit modified. But what about protein? How many of you are concerned about protein when it comes leaving animals out of your... Yeah, I mean, that's where I was. My daughter was 4 years old when she realized she was eating animals when she was eating chicken nuggets. She stopped eating them, and I freaked out. I later apologized after I saw forks over knives. But why are we so worried about protein? Protein, calcium, and iron. That's what we are worried about. Why are we not worried about zinc or selenium or magnesium? It's those 3 macronutrients, and it's very clever marketing campaign. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. But do you know that when human baby is just born and it's in its highest growths, this is you're building a new body, it's only drinking mother's milk, and mother's milk is only 6% protein. It's 1/4 of cow's milk when it comes to protein. So you don't have to worry about protein. Here are the numbers. So who knows how much protein do we need per day? What are the requirements?
9 grams.
It is 0.4 grams per pound of body weight, and it comes about 50 grams on average. So let's say, and this is according to FDA, and these numbers have a little bit of the safety factor in them, so you probably could get away with less. So average person eats about 2,000 calories, less or more. If you ate only broccoli, you would get 146 grams of protein. Nothing else, just broccoli. How much do you need? That would be a lot of broccoli. That's true. That is true. Lentils. It wouldn't be too many lentils. Lentils are much more compact. You would get 3 times as much protein than what you need. Corn, even corn has, if you just ate corn, 79 grams of protein. Oatmeal, 62. If you just ate potatoes, you would get pretty much enough protein. That's what you need. Now, oh shoot, maybe I should just do this. Think of people that you know with these problems: heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer. Now, do you know anyone with Kwashiorkor disease? Do you know what this disease is? It's a protein deficiency disease. In America, people get about 100% more protein than what they need, than what their needs are. And it comes mostly from animal sources that are not easy on our bodies, are not easy on our kidneys. So if you consume enough calories, you usually see this with starving people. They have protein deficiency. You will have protein deficiency if you eat only Oreos. But if you eat a decently rounded diet, you don't have to worry about protein. Even American Heart Association said you don't have to eat foods from animals to get enough protein in your diet. They are all you've heard about amino acids. They are essential and non-essential. All of them are in the plants. One thing that I wanted to mention that before we move on, in October of 2015, World Health Organization came out and put all the processed meat in the same group as asbestos and tobacco, class 1 carcinogen. It was on the news very briefly. I remember it because I was vegan. I'm like, yeah, everything will change now. But we are still serving this in our schools. My kids don't eat in school cafeteria. Red meat was suspected as possible carcinogen, but the link wasn't as strong enough. So just look it up. Thousands of studies, World Health Organization. There's plenty of protein everywhere you don't have to worry about. And biggest animals in the nature, they're herbivores. Where do they get their protein? It's a myth, and we have been duped. One thing that nobody thinks about is fiber. Recommended daily allowance, 30 to 40 grams per person. Only about 5% of Americans get enough fiber. And it's much more important than to improve your digestion. It helps with weight loss, blood sugar control, heart health, reduces cancer risk. One thing that I want to talk about, increased immunity. You've heard about probiotics. For your good bacteria in your gut to thrive, you need to feed that bacteria. And the food that bacteria eats is fiber. And you can take all the supplements you want, but if you don't follow up with good fiber-rich diet, that bacteria will die off. Actually, fiber is also called prebiotic because it helps. And this is, I think, as I said, my girls and our family, we just don't get as sick as often. And I think this is probably the reason we eat more fiber than we used to. So this is the part of presentation. We will present 2 different challenges if you guys are up to. So Elizabeth, if you want to talk about level 1 challenge.
Yeah, so since I'm from Liz from the Fitness Center, so I'm one of my friends here. Thanks to Paul. He's an awesome advocate of Nerma and her program. But for those of you who maybe aren't quite ready to go all in on whole plant-based foods, I'm going to offer a veggie challenge just to be aware of what you're consuming. You know, so about 2.5 cups a day of vegetables is what you should be consuming, and according to the Surgeon General, and that the other plate, the other plate that MyGov, what the government would suggest, I guess. So if you're not even sure what that looks like, how to get started, how do I start making these changes, I just want to start being more aware of what I'm eating, I'm going to offer just a 30 days. I'll guide you through it. You just sign up with me. I send you emails. Here's what you should be eating. Try it this week. Try this next week. Here's some recipes, and so on. It's very on your own. You're in control of it. I'm just there to help you, guide you, support you, encourage you, and cheer you on. And then when you're done with that, you could always opt in, if you're ready for that next step. However, if you are like, I am all in, which is kind of me right now, and I'm really motivated by your talk here, you could sign up today with that level 2 challenge.
Okay, so I'm going to describe a whole food plant-based challenge. It is really not as scary. Take a week to prepare. And I've given you some handouts, and I'll talk about more. Think about food that you are already eating that are plant-based. Think about foods that maybe you can modify. And take a week, research it, look online, order a cookbook, and then dive 100%, even if it's for just 3 weeks. And this I say because I want people to experience on themselves the power of this diet. If you are having healthy breakfast, but then you mess up for lunch and have a healthy dinner and occasion, will you really notice the impact as much? If you make moderate changes, you will see moderate results. Living is believing. So I'm saying you have nothing to lose. Try it for 3 weeks. If you stumble, not a big deal. But this gives people a chance to experience it. And a lot of people feel so good that they don't want to go back. Notice how you feel. Diet versus drugs. It's safer, cheaper, better. I have some handouts here. Again, if somebody wants to do this number 2 challenge, I have a little booklet with more information and some recipes. Let your doctor know, especially if you're on medication. If you're relatively healthy, you don't need to. But if you are under care of doctor, you should let your doctor know. Another thing that I encourage people to do, get your before and after numbers. You will be amazed what a big change, how much your cholesterol can drop, how much your blood sugar can improve in just 3 weeks. And I know that you have Optimal Health Solutions, but there is also Wellmobile that you can go and have your numbers checked for free. ReviewPCRM.org page, that's the organization that provides a lot of resources for free. There's a lot of recipes, and if you have some questions, you can look it up. They also have 21-day vegan kickstart where you get more inspiration and more recipes. This is something that I have on my phone, Happy Cow app, if you're traveling, and we talked about eating out. In this app, wherever you are, will give you all the restaurants around you and what plant-based options you can have in those restaurants. Now, you don't have to worry about B12 if you're doing it for a short period of time. But if you decide to do this long time, that's the only supplement that I take and I give my kids once or twice a week. And the reason is that we wash our food so much, it's produced by bacteria, so you don't get it with your fruits and veggies. They actually give supplements to animals. Animals who graze get it through bacteria and through dirt that they eat. But in factory settings and factory farms, they are actually supplementing it to animals, and then you get it that way. So this is, if you're doing it for a longer period of time, B12 would be one supplement to look into. You need only 2.5 micrograms, but in short period you're fine. And one thing that I get inspired, watch Forks Over Knives. That's a really well-spent hour and a half. It's a documentary that gives you a little bit more information, some inspirational stories. It's available on Netflix and Amazon Prime, and you can just, a lot of libraries have it. And one thing that I want to also mention, get inspired in other ways. What I found out many times, we will do things for others that we will not do for ourselves. And that was the case with me. There are a lot of information out there, how this diet helps environment, how it helps the animals. And when you get motivated, you may want to do it for your grandkids or your kids. And I find that people tend to stick with this way of living much more if they do it for somebody else. If you just do it for yourself, then it's only diet, and we tend to slip. So I think that's it. Here's my contact information, same thing that Elizabeth mentioned. I'll send you recipes. You can contact me if you have any questions. I have no plans to bombard you with emails or call you. But if you are in the store and you're looking for ingredients, that's actually, a lot of times people call me from the kitchen or from the store and saying, this is happening, or where do you find this ingredient? So just call or text, that's it. And I can send you a PDF of this presentation, and you can send it to everyone so you have this information. So now that we've done that, I'm going to quickly do a Mexican kale salad. I have everything here. And I have some soy milk here for you to try. Now, I brought soy milk even though as adults, we have no nutritional need for milk of any kind. We are not babies. We are not infants. We needed mother's milk when we were babies. So we are not cow babies. But if you want something to put on your cereal, if you want something to put in, make a milkshake, there is plenty of plant-based milk that you can check out. I prefer old-fashioned soy milk, but there's almond milk, there's cashew milk. Even Aldi carries, I think, 4 different types of plant-based milks. Okay. So what I have here today, I'm going to make a kale salad. And how many of you enjoy eating kale? Oh, there's quite a few. I have to tell you that I wasn't crazy about it before. It's a little bit bitter and it's tough. But it is #1 cancer-fighting type of plant. When it comes to cancer-fighting properties, #1 is cruciferous vegetables. That's your kale, your cauliflower, your broccoli, all the plants that have little cross. That's where the name comes as a flower, cross flowers. Cruciferous vegetables, that's #1 cancer-fighting. I should have probably done this before putting mine. So I went to Kroger yesterday, and I got this dark green purple kale. I mean, just looking at it, this is healthy. This is folate, this dark green color, and then purple, I just like it. It's resveratrol. It's really good for you. So when I make kale, what I do, you wash it, you clean it, you dry it, and then you just strip it. Now, if you don't have time for that, by all means, go and get kale in the bag that's already chopped up if you don't have time to cook, and I know we are all busy. And then I will chop it up. The problem is, oftentimes when I look at kale in the store, they will leave these stems. And I really don't want to eat them. So now we have this kale that's chopped and washed, but it's really tough and bitter. So what you could do, like maybe blanch it a little bit with hot water. But today I'm going to show you how to massage the kale. You're actually using mechanical force to break down all that fiber and make it more palatable. Because I'm going to be honest, like somebody gives you this or a cake. This is not but it's good for us. And the more you eat foods like this, your gut bacteria changes and you start craving these foods. So even though it's not easy, maybe in beginning, it gets better. You actually start craving. So I'm putting a little bit salt, a little bit lemon juice. Lemon juice will help with breaking it down. Salt will help with breaking it down. But also, lemon plays an important role because vitamin C help us absorb calcium from dark leafy vegetables. There is a lot of calcium in beans and greens. Just remember that, beans and greens. And when you add some lemon juice, some vitamin C, it could be even balsamic vinegar, and that's usually how salads are made, that will help you get the most out of it, the most nutrients. Another thing why, now did you notice how I started with fall and it's already going down? And you're just massaging. I'm just squeezing it.
Balsamic vinegar has vitamin C?
It doesn't have, but it has that acidity. It has a little bit vitamin C, and it helps really, it helps 2 things. It helps you absorb calcium, but it also helps combat that bitterness. So that's why you combine it, so you don't really taste that bitterness. Okay, I think that's enough. And this kale is, because I added some salt, is losing some liquid, getting smaller. People always laugh when I say we're going to massage kale, but it really helps. Okay, so we have massaged kale. Next, I'm going to adding some red peppers, excellent source of vitamin C and lycopene. And you can use orange peppers. Now, one thing is interesting, that all of these antioxidants and phytochemicals that help us beat cancer and keep us healthy, fight radical damage, nature has packed just perfectly. For example, in 1980s, they noticed that people who eat a lot of plants with beta-carotene had lower cancer risk and helped them fight the lung cancer better. And they said, okay, it's a beta-carotene, and then the beta-carotene and supplement industry started putting it out there. In the 90s, they did studies, and those people who took beta-carotene supplement had higher cancer risk. We want to take a shortcut, but I think we have not figured it out, and sometimes you just have to eat your vegetables. You just have to eat your vegetables. Okay, so here's the next thing that I have here. And I didn't want you guys smelling onion all this time. I have some chopped onion. And again, I picked purple one. Why not? This is the second cancer-fighting vegetable. If you rank them down, allium vegetables, it's your onions, leeks, garlic, shallots. We put some onions there. It's wonderful for you. I forgot scissors. Please help. Or just pencil or something.
You got some? Look at you. Like a jackknife on them.
I told them I always forget something. I have black beans. I've just rinsed them from a can. Again, this dark color, dark purple, this is anthocyanin. There's tons of fiber. Longest living people in the world eat a lot of legumes. Americans eat hardly any. A lot of people are afraid of gas, but if you slowly increase your bean intake, that should fix the problem. Then just don't go home and eat 5 cups, And then I just put some corn. Again, corn is good. And I add some salsa for the kick. And this is pretty easy. The only chopping that I did was really kale. And again, if you can do some shortcuts, invest in buying prepackaged food. That's fine. A lot of time I will buy canned or frozen. When I cook, I buy a lot of mixed vegetables that are already frozen. Those are just really easy. And I want to show just all of those colors. This food is medicine. This food is medicine. We have added some lemon juice. And I think that's it. I'm going to just do a little taste test, make sure we don't need a little bit more salsa. Yeah, this is good. It's important to try your food. Okay, that's it. Thank you. So this morning I realized I didn't have a paper bowl, so I'm just going to fill these cups. And Elizabeth will help me out. Oh, I forgot something. You add some chips on top. Now, I like, just for the crunch, now chips are fried in oil. So I try to get baked ones. Those have they say 50% less fat. We are trying to avoid oil. You could also make your own chips. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't have time. If you just buy corn tortillas, cut them up in triangle, put a little bit lemon juice on them and salt, bake them in the oven, just Google. And any recipe, really, you can just, what I tell people, don't just Google vegan. You can go with low-fat vegan meatloaf. And then you will find pretty much 200 recipes or 1,000 recipes on that. Okay, so And one thing that I'm putting sunflower seeds instead of pepitas, but you can put any nut or seed that you like. Okay, I think the fastest way to do this is like this. Yes, please, thank you.